You're standing on the northern frontier of the Roman world. The air smells of wet grass and horse sweat. Somewhere beyond the river, the land opens into a flat, endless horizon that your maps refuse to describe. You're a Roman officer. You have spent your life believing that order comes from stone, walls, roads, forts, rules written in Latin and enforced by steel. Then the horizon moves. At first it looks like weather, a low, dark line rippling against the sky. Then you hear it. Not horns, not drums, hooves, thousands of them. Too many to count, too fast to track. Your scouts return pale and breathless. No banners, no cities, no supply wagons, just riders. Always riders. They don't form ranks. They don't slow down. They don't stop. You wait for them to negotiate. Empires always do. They don't. They circle your position like wolves testing a fence. Arrows fall from distances your archers can't answer. When you advance, they vanish. When you retreat, they reappear. Closer. This is the moment Rome realizes something it has never faced before. You're not being invaded. You're being hunted. And there is no decisive battle coming to save you. That fear on the frontier did not stay there. It travelled down Roman roads faster than legions could march. Reports stacked up on desks in provincial capitals, then on the floor of the Senate itself. Entire regions destabilised without a single city being taken. Garrisons exhausted without ever engaging an enemy they could pin down. Rome had spent centuries perfecting how to fight wars it understood. This was not one of them. By the early 5th century, the Roman Empire still looked vast on parchment. But in practice, it was brittle. Borders stretched thin, armies overstretched, tax systems strained. Civil wars had drained manpower and confidence. The empire could still punish rebellion. It could still besiege cities. It could still crush rivals who played by imperial rules. What it could not do was force a fight against an enemy who refused to stand still. Into this strategic blind spot rode the Huns, and at their centre was a man whose reputation would become more destructive than his army. The Huns were not a mystery because they were savage. They were a mystery because they were logical. Their world was the steppe, a vast flat ecosystem stretching across Central Asia into Eastern Europe. No natural choke points, no mountain passes to fortify, no rivers wide enough to anchor permanent borders. Agriculture on this land was unreliable. Cities were liabilities. Mobility was survival. From childhood, Hun society trained for movement. Children learned to ride almost as soon as they could walk. Entire families migrated with their herds. Homes were portable. Wealth was counted in animals and followers, not land. This environment produced a military doctrine without ever writing one down. Speed over armour, distance over formation, exhaustion over annihilation. The Hun bow, short, recurved, brutally efficient, allowed riders to fire accurately while moving at full speed. A Hun warrior did not need to close with an enemy to defeat him. He needed patience and space. Rome, by contrast, was built on predictability. Roman armies marched in formation. They required roads, depots, and schedules. They were devastating when they could bring their mass to bear. But every strength carried a cost. Heavy infantry needed supply lines. Fortifications needed garrisons. Control required administration. Against other states, this worked. Against a society that treated logistics as optional, it didn't. Rome's greatest enemy was not Attila himself. It was the land that made him possible. The steppe erased Rome's advantages. There were no cities to capture that would end the war, no capital whose fall would force submission, no agricultural base to burn that would cripple production. Every Roman response assumed there was something solid to hit. There wasn't. Hun forces could appear where Rome was weak, vanish where it was strong, and reappear behind defensive lines days later. Forts protected roads. The Huns simply didn't use them. Rivers slowed Roman movement. Hun horses crossed them anywhere. This turned Roman strategy inside out. Every legion deployed to chase the Huns left another region exposed. Every defensive concentration created an opening elsewhere. Rome could defend everywhere, or strike decisively, but not both. The steppe didn't just enable Hun warfare, it enforced it. By the time Attila emerged as sole ruler of the Huns, the system already existed. What he added was focus. Attila did not invent Hun warfare. He unified it. He coordinated disparate groups into a single political and military force capable of sustained pressure. Under his leadership, raids became campaigns, threats became negotiations backed by force. Rome called him the Scourge of God, but that label says more about Roman psychology than Hun ideology. Attila understood something Rome did not want to admit. The empire was afraid of instability more than defeat. He exploited that fear relentlessly. Rather than destroying Rome outright, Attila extracted value from it. Gold, hostages, recognition. Roman diplomacy treated him like a foreign king because the alternative was constant chaos along the frontier. Each payment reinforced the truth Rome tried to hide. The empire could not make this problem go away. From Rome's perspective, paying Attila was humiliating. From Attila's perspective, it was efficient. The Huns did not seek to govern Roman territory. They did not want cities to administer or populations to feed. Control would slow them down. Extraction did not. Rome, meanwhile, could not ignore the threat. Frontier collapse meant internal rebellion. Refugees destabilized provinces. Every delayed response weakened imperial authority. Both sides acted rationally. Neither side could escape the logic of its own system. This is why Attila's power grew even when Rome won engagements. The empire measured success in battles. The Huns measured success in outcomes. If Roman armies marched, provinces emptied. If Roman armies stayed, raids intensified. Victory, as Rome understood it, no longer applied. When Attila turned his attention westward, the pattern repeated on a larger scale. Gaul and northern Italy felt the same pressure the Danube frontier had endured for decades. Cities fortified, armies assembled, diplomats panicked. The famous confrontation at Chalons did not resolve the problem. It merely proved that even massive Roman-led coalitions could barely contain Hun momentum, and containment was not defeat. Even when Attila withdrew, the damage remained. Trade disrupted, authority undermined. The myth of Roman invincibility further eroded. The empire survived these encounters, but survival is not strength. Attila's death did not end Rome's problems. It revealed them. Once the Hun Confederation fractured, Rome did not return to stability. The systems Attila exploited were still broken. Borders remained porous. Armies remained overstretched. The empire had learned how to pay threats away, but not how to rebuild resilience. The irony is sharp. The nomads Rome feared never conquered it. They simply exposed how hollow it had become. Later barbarian kingdoms did not emerge from nowhere. They filled vacuums Rome could no longer manage. The Western Empire's collapse was not caused by one invasion, but by decades of adaptive enemies revealing institutional fragility. Attila didn't bring Rome down. He showed everyone else where to push. In modern terms, Rome was a heavyweight bureaucracy fighting a decentralized network. The Huns operated like a force multiplier. Low overhead, high mobility, minimal infrastructure, maximum leverage. Rome responded with committees, requisitions, and marching orders. It was a logistics nightmare, and Rome lost not because it lacked power, but because it couldn't apply it efficiently against a moving target. Rome liked to believe that civilization was permanent, that roads, laws, and walls made history predictable. The Huns proved otherwise. They showed that adaptability beats mass, that speed beats size, that systems optimized for control fail when control is impossible, and that the most dangerous enemies are not those who want to replace you, but those who don't need what you've built at all. So here is the question history leaves us with. If Rome, wealthy, organized, experienced, could be made to panic by nomads with no cities and no written laws, how secure is any system that depends on being too big to fail? If this story changed how you think about power, empire, or collapse, stay with the channel. History doesn't end. It waits for the next system to believe it's invincible.